What if the wisest king the world has ever known did not only command armies of men, but legions of demons? What if every nightmare spirit that haunted the ancient world, creatures of disease, madness, and death, bowed in chains before a single golden ring? This is no myth whispered around fires. This is the forbidden testament of Solomon, an apocryphal tale where angels reveal secrets, grotesque spirits confess their powers, and one man dares to command them all. But was this a divine gift meant to build God's holy temple, or a dangerous deception that lured the wisest king into pride, temptation, and ruin? Tonight, we step into the shadows of an ancient story most were never meant to hear. Jerusalem, the 10th century before Christ. The city hummed with life, markets overflowing with spices, gold, and cedar wood hauled from distant lands. Pilgrims, merchants, and soldiers moved through its gates, each whispering the same name with awe and fear: Solomon. This was the age of Israel's most celebrated king, a ruler whose wisdom was said to surpass all men, whose judgment silenced disputes, whose writings filled scrolls with proverbs, and whose wealth made silver as common as stones. Kings and queens traveled from across the world just to hear him speak. The Queen of Sheba herself crossed deserts to test him with riddles and left speechless at his answers. But Solomon's reign was not defined only by wisdom or wealth. He bore a commission unlike any before him, to build a house not for man, but for God himself. A temple where heaven and earth would meet, where priests would serve, and where the name of Yahweh would dwell. Yet behind the splendor of this holy mission lies a stranger tale. A story preserved not in the canon of Scripture, but in an apocryphal text known as the Testament of Solomon. This testament claims that as Solomon began his great work, he faced a problem that no army or treasury could solve. His workers fell sick, his builders were struck with terror, and one young boy, sent to labor at the temple, was visited night after night by a monstrous shadow that drained away his very life. Solomon prayed for deliverance, and according to this text, God did not answer with soldiers or with fire from heaven, but with a single object, a golden ring, engraved with the seal of the living God, a ring that could summon, command, and bind demons. And so begins the most controversial story of Solomon's reign, the tale of a king who did not just build with stone and timber, but with the forced labor of grotesque spirits bound in chains. But before we enter that world of confession and command, we must first understand the stage. For in the ancient imagination, demons were not fantasy. They were the daily terror of life itself. To the Jews, they were destructive spirits lurking in the wilderness, shadows that stole breath from infants and spread sickness through homes. To the Babylonians, they were the forces of plague, famine, and madness, assigned names and symbols etched onto clay tablets for protection. To the Greeks, they were daimons, powerful but dangerous intermediaries, some whispering wisdom, others stirring ruin. And into this swirling mixture of belief, fear, and superstition stepped Solomon, armed with a divine ring and a wisdom unmatched by men. A king called to build a holy temple, yet destined to command unholy forces. If you believe hidden stories hold truths we still need today, subscribe now, because the tale you're about to hear only grows stranger. The foundation stones had been set. The cedar beams hauled from Lebanon stood ready. But before the temple of God could rise in Jerusalem, an unseen enemy struck. The workers, men hardened by labor, began to weaken. Their strength vanished without cause. Some staggered and collapsed under the weight of stone. Others fell into fits of terror, swearing that shadows clung to their backs and whispers followed them even in daylight. But one case was more chilling than all the rest. A young boy, barely strong enough to carry water to the laborers, returned each evening pale and hollow-eyed. His father wept as he told Solomon the truth. Every night, a monstrous figure appeared at the boy's side, strangling him, draining him of breath, drinking his very life. The workers named the presence Orneus, a vampiric spirit, a demon whose delight was to afflict the young and innocent, feeding on their blood and their spirit until only death remained. Solomon's wisdom had silenced disputes between men. His armies had crushed earthly enemies. But how could a king fight an enemy that struck in darkness, that no sword could touch? So the king did the only thing left to him. He prayed, and the heavens answered. The archangel Michael, mighty in the armies of God, appeared with a gift, Not a blade, not a shield, but a golden ring. Upon its face was engraved the seal of the living God, a symbol so holy that no spirit of darkness could resist it. Michael's words were clear. "Take this, Solomon. With it you will have authority to summon, to bind, and to command. But remember, the power is not yours. It belongs to the one who gives it." Armed with the ring, Solomon confronted the terror that stalked his workers. That very night, Ornias returned to the boy, clutching his throat as before. But this time Solomon raised the seal. The demon shrieked, thrashing, its form caught as though shackled by invisible chains. Solomon spoke, "By the name of the Most High, I command you, confess who you are and what you do." And the spirit answered, "I am Ornias. At dusk I steal into children's chambers. I drain their breath, I suck their strength, and I sow sickness until they perish." The workers trembled as the demon, forced by the seal, revealed its secrets. But Ornias was only the beginning. Night after night, Solomon summoned others. One by one they appeared, grotesque and strange, each revealing their nature when commanded by the ring. Winged female spirits who admitted they seduced men in their sleep, leaving households in ruin. Spirits of madness who whispered lies until the sane clawed at their own faces. Spirits that shook the earth with violent tremors, boasting that they toppled homes and crushed the proud beneath falling stone. Spirits of envy who confessed that their joy was watching neighbor turn against neighbor until blood stained the streets. Each time, Solomon forced them to confess not only their evil, but also the name of the angel who could defeat them. For every spirit of corruption, there was a counterforce of divine protection. And so, the greatest of Israel's kings sat in judgment not only over men, but over spirits. Yet the question began to rise. Can a man of God truly command demons without being corrupted by them? Because the more Solomon summoned, the more the darkness stared back at him. The more secrets he learned, the heavier the weight of forbidden knowledge pressed upon his soul. If you held the power to bind every evil force with a single ring, would you use it? Would you dare stare into the eyes of spirits that feed on fear and ruin? If you think you'd stay pure, prove it. Subscribe now. If not, confess in the comments why you know you'd fall. Day by day, Solomon's chamber filled not with men but with demons, dragged by the seal of God, chained by invisible bonds, and made to kneel before the king. One by one, he forced them to confess their nature. And each demon, unwilling yet unable to resist, revealed not only its powers but the precise angel that could undo it. A spirit of lust whispered, "I enter the hearts of men in the night. I drive them from wife to stranger, from faithfulness to ruin, but Raphael is my enemy. At his name I flee." Another, the spirit of rage, snarled, "I am the fire that burns in a man's chest. I make him strike his brother, shed blood, and delight in it. But Michael smites me when he is called." A demon of greed confessed, "I coil around men like a serpent. I whisper, 'Take more, take all,' until their souls are hollow. But Gabriel casts me down." Each confession showed a dangerous truth. Wisdom was not only knowing what was holy, it was knowing what was corrupt. Solomon was not simply building a temple of stone. He was building a catalog of evil, forcing spirits to expose the very poisons that plagued mankind. And then, with cold command, Solomon set them to labor. The spirits hauled great stones through the desert, cut cedar beams from the forests, and shaped bronze for the pillars. Workers who once trembled at shadows now watched, astonished, as supernatural hands raised the walls of the holy temple. But the more Solomon ruled over spirits, the more they tested him. One demon stood out above all others, Asmodeus. Known in many traditions as the prince of lust and destruction, he resisted the ring with fierce pride. When Solomon bound him, Asmodeus laughed, "You call yourself wise, O king, but you are proud. And pride is the root of my strength. You may chain my hands, but my laughter will echo in your heart." His words cut deep, for what good is it to command demons if they reveal the shadows already within you? Then came a female spirit, beautiful in form, yet serpentine in voice. She declared, "I am the spirit of obsession. I twist the eyes of men until they see only me. I bend their will until they forget God, forget family, forget themselves. Solomon, even you are not beyond my reach." Her words slithered through the chamber like smoke. And for the first time, the king's gaze faltered. Was he using holy wisdom, or was he practicing sorcery, cloaked in holiness? As if to deepen the burden, other spirits revealed not temptations of the flesh, but secrets of the heavens. One boasted, "I rule over the Pleiades. I bind sailors at sea and confuse those who read the stars." Another declared, "I dwell in Orion. I sway the course of men's fates, pulling threads unseen. I know the destinies written in the constellations." And Solomon listened. Each word revealed knowledge never given to man, knowledge that promised power, but demanded a price. The king, who once asked God only for wisdom, now found himself standing on the edge of temptation. Was the seal a divine tool, or a forbidden key that opened doors never meant for human hands? For every demon chained, another voice whispered, "You are greater than the angels themselves. You hold dominion over the forces of chaos. What need have you of humility, when all powers bow to your ring? Would you trust yourself to question spirits of deception, knowing they feed on pride? Could you stare into the face of obsession, rage, and lust, and walk away uncorrupted? If yes, hit subscribe. If not, write your weakness below." For even Solomon, the wisest of kings, began to tremble beneath the weight of what he had unleashed. The air grew heavier in Solomon's chamber. Lesser spirits had come and gone, bound and chained to the king's will. But now a greater power approached, darkness thicker than shadow, pride hotter than fire. Dragged before Solomon was none other than Beelzebul, the prince of demons. In other writings, he was called Lord of the Flies. In this testament, he claimed something more, dominion second only to Satan himself. Even in chains, he did not tremble. His voice rumbled like thunder across stone halls. "I am Beelzebul, prince of the fallen. I sat at the right hand of the rebel before the throne of God. The nations bow to idols because of me. Their incense rises not to heaven, but to the darkness I command." The chamber shuddered as the demon's confession echoed. Workers, priests, even hardened soldiers hid their faces, unable to look upon him. But Solomon, holding the seal, stood firm. "By the power of the Most High you will serve as the others serve. You will obey, and you will reveal your secrets." Bound by the divine seal, even Beelzebul was forced to kneel. Yet he did not kneel in silence. He mocked. He warned. He prophesied. "Yes, King of Israel, I will build your temple. My hands will lift its stones. My strength will raise its walls. But mark my words, as I serve you now, so will your heart one day serve me. Through women and idols I will undo you. Your wisdom will not save you. Your ring will not save you. Your pride will be your ruin." And there, in the heart of the holy city, divine irony unfolded. For the very demons Solomon chained were the same that foretold his fall. Their labor raised the house of God, but their words planted seeds of doubt that would outlast the stones themselves. Imagine it. The temple of the Lord, Jerusalem's pride, Israel's glory, its beams carved by angels, its walls lifted by spirits of darkness, its gates hammered by hands that once spread plague, a holy purpose achieved by unholy means. Was it victory, or was it corruption disguised as triumph? For in the Testament's chilling close, the warning of Beelzebul becomes truth. Solomon, the wisest of kings, who bound demons and interrogated spirits, would one day bow his head before the idols of foreign wives. The ring that humbled darkness could not protect him from the weakness within his own heart. Even Solomon, with all his wisdom, could not resist pride and desire. The demons obeyed him, but he obeyed his own temptations. If you think you'd have stood stronger than the wisest king in history, subscribe now. If not, admit why in the comments, because sometimes the greatest battles are not fought with enemies outside, but with shadows within. And so the temple was completed. Its walls gleamed with gold. Its doors stood tall in the sunlight. Inside, the Ark of the Covenant rested in a place prepared by hands that both angels and demons had touched. To the people of Israel, it was the crown of Solomon's reign, the proof that God's blessing rested upon their king. But the testament of Solomon does not end in triumph, it ends in confession. For as the years passed, the warning of Beelzebul proved true. Solomon, the man who forced spirits to obey, could not master the whispers within his own heart. His foreign wives brought their idols, their rituals, their altars. Slowly, almost quietly, the king who once prayed for wisdom built shrines to gods of stone and fire. The seal of Solomon, once his greatest weapon, nearly slipped from his grasp. Some texts even whisper that a powerful spirit tricked him, stealing the ring and casting the king into disgrace before it was finally restored. Whether legend or truth, the meaning is the same. The one who commanded legions of darkness was himself undone by temptation. And this is the paradox the Testament leaves us with. A man of divine wisdom wielding forbidden knowledge. A holy temple built through unholy labor. A king raised up by God, yet humbled by his own pride. It is a warning written in ancient ink, but meant for every age. Commanding darkness does not make you immune to its corruption. Power, even when dressed in wisdom, can become a snare when humility is lost. Solomon's story echoes across the centuries. Even the wisest of men fall when they think themselves invincible. The temple still stood. The songs of worship still rose from within its courts. But the king who built it could not stand pure before the God it was dedicated to. A victory that looked divine, yet was shadowed by irony. The Testament of Solomon remains one of the strangest and most haunting writings in ancient tradition. Scholars debate its origin. Some call it allegory, a moral fable dressed in mystical imagery. Others suggest fragments of truth, echoes of oral stories that once circled Israel's courts. But whether history, legend, or warning, one truth remains: power without humility is a snare. Solomon could command demons, but he could not command his own desires. He could build the house of God, but he could not guard his own heart. And so we are left with a chilling question. Were these confessions of demons mere invention? Or do they still linger in the unseen, waiting? Perhaps the spirits Solomon once bound are not gone at all, but whisper still in the shadows, waiting for another king bold or foolish enough to summon them again. If this story shook you, subscribe now. Don't walk away unchanged. Would you dare wear the ring of Solomon, holding the power to command heaven and hell? Or would you leave it buried in legend, where it belongs? Your answer belongs in the comments below. Because if even the wisest king in history could fall, what would happen if it were you?